After you've been doing this a while, and I don't recommend doing this right away, you can add what we are calling advanced vocalizing. This is really where you really are trying to develop technique. This is going beyond just getting the voice moving. What are some of our goals here, Miriam?
So there's a few. I am going to show you all the ones that I liked the best for myself. My teacher gave me these in graduate school. I always start, just like you all have done, with some easy exercises that bring you down, that just, that go from high to low. You don't want to start with your first like da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That'll be really difficult. So I always start that way. So these exercises that I'm going to show you are usually my third or fourth when I'm warming up. I also warm up for about 15, 20 minutes before I have to sing my arias or my shows or whatever I'm doing. So these are all helping me focus in on several things that I can then bring into my repertoire. So I'm usually looking to find my resonance, find my legato, that is really smooth singing, work on my agility, and also warm up my top and my bottom. That's usually what I'm working on in these. So the first exercise that I like to do, and again, this is really more like my third exercise, I call me, me, me. And what this is you're going to sing 2 triads in a row. The first one, you keep M's for it. The second one, you take away the M. So I'll demonstrate. For me, I usually start at middle C. You may need to start a little bit higher if you're a higher voice type, or lower if you're very low. It's all up to you. So the way this goes, you go, me, 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 me. So the things that I'm thinking about in this one, I'm thinking of humming through that M and the E. That vowel and M's are really easy things to find resonance in. So I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking of these parts, my lowest note and my highest note, all feeling really easy and kind of in the same place. You might have to think of this top note when you breathe in for the bottom note. I'll give a disclaimer. It's always more difficult to go up than it is to come down. So you want to be aware of that top note when you start the bottom note. I'm going to demonstrate poorly with not thinking of that top note and going me, 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 me. Hear how I'm doing a lot of adjusting. I was kind of chesting this bottom pitch. I was feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? You want it all to feel really easy. The final thing is when you take those M's away, you want to feel like you're really sliding in between each pitch. That is activating your legato. So we'll tape this a couple places. So, I'll do that same pattern that we were doing before. And down a half step. So on and so forth. I usually take this up almost an octave. That's on a good day. Usually I'll take this up to about anywhere from an F to a G. Notice I wasn't going really fast through that. It's not a race. I'm using this to really check, how's my resonance today? Am I able to move my air efficiently? What's going on? I'm just using it to check in with myself. I'm not judging myself if I crack, if things go wrong. That's not the point. So that's one exercise. Another one I like, this gets more advanced, is mi, e, a. So far, all the exercises that we have been doing have been on the same vowel. So once you feel like you're really solid on that one vowel, it's great to move on to an exercise that introduces new ones. This one goes, as Dad mentioned before, from more forward and closed vowels steadily to more open vowels. E and a tend to really want to fall back as we're singing them. So what I'm thinking of in this exercise is really leaning forward into my resonance, trying to keep my e and a feeling just as resonant and forward as the e was. So this pattern, you're going me, that was a little tricky. I didn't get as good a breath for this one because this one's a little longer. So I'm going to try that again, see if I can do any better. Again, I'm not judging myself. It's just an observation. All right. That felt a little better to me. So I'm going to try here now. As I'm doing it, it's feeling easier and easier. You'll probably discover that. This is another one that I only have one consonant at the beginning, one M, to get into that resonance. I'm thinking of slipping and sliding in between each note as I go. So what I'm not doing is I exaggerate, but you might find that you're going to start adding little H's to differentiate between the notes. You don't need to do that. Your voice knows where those notes are. Think of sliding. That'll be helpful.
So now that you've got some exercises where you can work with vowels and legato, you might want to work on just agility. That is moving the voice quickly with clarity. So here's a couple of exercises that do that very, very well. Again, we're going to start on middle C just for convenience, and we're going to go up and down 5 notes. So for the first version of this, I sing B as in boy, and then D as in dog. So B, D, B, D, B, 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 D, B, D, B, and I'm doing that slowly just so you can hear. Beware of tension here. It's going to be tempting to go B, D, B, D, B, B, D, B, D, B. Keep that jaw and tongue released. So you can do that quite fast. B, D, B, D, B, 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 D, B, D, B. Maybe then go down a half step. B, D, B, D, B, 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 D, B, D, B. Maybe up a whole step. B, D, B, D, B, 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 D, B, D, B. Beady, beady, beep, beep, beady, beady, bee. You can also use different consonants if you want. T, 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 T. That might work. Lee, 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 lee. There's another one that might work. Just use different ones, whatever works for you. Then try taking away the consonants except at the beginning. So we might do this. Me, me, me. Now, there's a couple of things to this. When you get to the top, you do want to bounce that. Feel almost like a ball bouncing. So it's a glide and then a bounce. Me, gliding back. That keeps your voice moving in an articulate way. So, Miriam, anything you want to add? Any tips you have for this one?
Yeah, this is going to be one where it's going to be really tempting to add H's in between us when you take away those consonants. Like, so that may feel to you like you're doing a lot and you're being really expressive and getting a ton of notes out, but you're adding in a whole lot more work than you actually have to do. Even when you're doing these agility exercises, you want to think legato, think smooth. So notice when Dad did it, it was he was singing each note, but it wasn't very percussive. Yeah, your voice knows how to sing those individual notes. You don't need to add in that da-da-da-da-da.
What we're going for is curves. So you might even try singing me or me. Try conducting yourself, making a movement that helps you remember to keep it legato. Singing is almost always legato, and even when we're bouncing, we're keeping things moving. We're just bouncing while we do that.
When you're doing these vocal exercises, if you're doing them before you're singing a specific song, it's a good rule of thumb to go maybe a whole step higher, a whole step lower than you have to be in your song. We always do that in choir rehearsal so that your highest note in your song doesn't feel as difficult. If you've warmed up past it, then you'll know, oh, I haven't hit my ceiling. I could go a little further if I want to. Maybe you don't want to, but at least you know that it's capable. Notice, I'm not saying go as high as you possibly can. Like I probably could get up to a high C sharp or D, but I'm not going to do that every day if I don't need those notes. If I'm only singing in my middle range, going up as high as I possibly can isn't super helpful. So it's good to always keep in mind, what am I vocalizing for? If you're just doing it like you are now, just to keep your chops up, again, don't feel like I have to go as high as I possibly can or as low as I possibly can. They're easy stretches. You're just gradually working into that.
Something to think about for high notes is always working past them, as Miriam suggests, so that you're coming down to them. So again, I'm giving you a little bit of a look behind the curtain. When we're doing this exercise, let's say the highest note in our piece that day is going to be this high A, the one that's on the top ledger line for the sopranos. I'm going to make sure that I go at least to the key of C sharp, but preferably even to D, because there's that A, that high A, but we've sung a whole fourth above it and come down to it. It's all about coming down to high notes rather than reaching up for them. That's always very important. So that's a little bit of an introduction to each of these kinds of exercises, how to do them, and how they work.